If you're serious about gold prospecting in Western Australia, I'm going to show you a stupidly simple way to find more gold prospecting locations than you can poke a stick at. Enough locations to make you last a year worth of metal detecting. If this is of interest to you, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Bruce the Part-Time Prospector, and I want to show you the techniques that I use as an ex-gold exploration geologist to find and research gold prospecting locations where I can go and use my metal detector. So there's a couple of criterias, two criterias initially to really hone in the area that I use. One, there must be gold mineralisation present, and two, there must be land that I can go and prospect on legally. Okay. I'm going to choose a part of Western Australia at random because basically I can for this example that must qualify for those two things. I personally like the area around Kew in Western Australia. This is Western Australia, the capital city Perth's down here. And just to give you some size of how big Western Australia is, this is Western Australia here. This is Arizona, this is Texas, this is California, this is New Mexico, and we got space to spare. And just because it's topical, I've thrown in Greenland. So we're going to concentrate on this area up here, and I'm just going to zoom in on this area a bit so I don't lose it. I chose this area because it's got some nice geological features to demonstrate. I could have used anywhere else. Okay, so the first thing, is there gold present? I go across to the menu on the side and I choose gold locations. Boom, yes, there is gold present and looks like a fair bit of it. Okay, next thing, is there any land that I can get on? So I have a look at pending tenements. So pending tenements, one's drawn in blue here, basically means someone has pegged that lease and they're waiting for it to go to the next stage, which is called live. When it's live, only the person who has the rights to the tenement can go on it and prospect. When it's pending, pretty much anybody can go on it. Okay, so we're going to zoom in a bit more. And oh yes, it looks some nice stuff in here. There is blue and there is yellow triangles inside here. So this is looking promising. Okay, so a couple of triangles around, spanning a couple of leases, a couple of this side. What I've seen here is only one step so far. Well, turning on the tenements. Though I said when it's blue, you can go on it, but you have to be careful because sometimes a live lease can sit on top of a pending lease. So I'll go along and turn on the live leases as well. And you'll notice how this one in the middle here, this little square in the middle, if I turn on the live, it turns hash. It goes from just blue to blue and green. So basically means there's live on top of the pending as well. If that's the case, live always wins. You cannot go on it. Okay. So the rest of the countryside looks good. All this out here is blue, 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 blue. A couple of greens. We'll stay away from that. Whoa, this is not an ad. We don't have sponsors on this channel. But if you're liking the tool, as you're seeing what I'm using so far, then it's my own creation. And check out the first pinned comment for more details about it. Back to the video. Okay, so let's turn off the lives and let's zoom in on here. Now, one of the things I like to do first up is get a feel for what does the old workings look like on the ground using aerial photography, which is going to be a major tool here. Okay, so again, I'm going to, leaving these triangles on, the gold locations, I'm going to turn the pending tenements off. I'll go down to the base maps and turn on our friend Google. Okay, boom. This is, you can see our triangles and you can see there's some workings up here, some workings over here. And as we zoom in a bit more, you can see there's a nice line of workings all the way down here. There's some workings up here and some workings over here. But one of the things that immediately catches my eye is this, which is an unexpected bonus. Okay, that and that. And these, when we zoom in, are signs of scraping. Basically, a person has brought in a dozer or a bobcat or something like that and pushed the dirt aside, and usually they've been metal detecting. Okay, if they've been doing that, there's a sign that there is gold in the soil suitable for metal detecting. Okay, it usually means that these bits have been worked quite well, and by the effort here they've put in, by the amount of workings they've done here, they've probably got some gold out of it. Okay, so let's move this aside. So that's, if we zoom in again, this is what the old workings look like. Here you can see we've got a pile of mullock, waste dirt, with a shaft in the middle. Along here, 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 and here, it looks like an open stope, basically an underground mine that's come up all the way to the surface and actually broken through to the surface. And then if I turn off this gold look, or turn this gold look, oops, I'm drawing, let's turn that one off. You can see there's some old shafts up here. There's a shaft over there, and there's something happening in here, but not quite certain what it is. Okay, so that's looking promising, very promising. And if I zoom around, there's some more workings happening up here. There's a lot of pushing and scraping happening around here. They've dug some costeans, trenches. There's some more shafts along here. So this is quite a mineralized zone. Okay, so now, without jumping to any conclusions about where to look to next, or as my dad would say, don't jump to a confusion, what I do here is I go and create a new layer, and let's rename this one some spots, could be whatever you like to call it. Okay, and I'm going to go and draw in the location, not really draw in, but just drop pins at the location of any significant workings. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to zoom down here and start here where we did, and I'll put in, I could type in a title or description if I want to, but I'll leave it on yellow, which is the default, because it stands out nice and bright. There's one there. There's some workings here, some workings up here, as we've already pointed out in the earlier bit. And don't know if there's any further down here, but I can push the screen, and there's one down there. There's another one down here, and there is something happening in here. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not going to be too vigorous on it. And I'm looking around here to see what else is on here, looking for any signs of shafts and old workings. Now, this looks like there's some sort of old dam up here that collected water. Another thing up here, so it could be related to the old guys. Let's have a look in here. Once you get to a certain point in the Google imagery, it does seem to fall apart a bit. So you have to stay out a bit, otherwise you start hallucinating and seeing things that don't really exist. Okay, and so you start going around the countryside drawing things in. You'll see a number of these sort of features around, 3 evenly spaced grey zones, sometimes more than 3. Here's another lot over here. Okay, these are not all shafts. This is a drill traverse. What happens is they've brought a drill rig in, they've drilled holes at a whatever spacing it is across, which probably looks at about 20, maybe 30 meter spacings all the way along, and sampled it. Now, we may be able to see if there is some, we'll turn on the shallow drilling, and oh, there we are, there comes the drill holes. Okay, so don't jump to a conclusion that you've found a nice row of shafts when they're not. Okay, so if we zoom out a bit, you see there's quite a few of them. There's another one, another row there, and there's another row somewhere up here somewhere. There's also some more shafts. There's one there. Come on. Oh, I've got to be on the right layer. Some spots. I'll drop that point there. And there's another shaft down here. There could be some up here, but I'm not going to get too enthusiastic about it. And there's another one there. Just the ones that are really obvious. Okay. There's another one there. So instead of wasting all your time while I draw these in, what I'm going to do is race ahead, and I'll do them, and we'll come back and see the whole outline. Okay, now we've got a whole bunch of spots in our areas. So all the old workings are pretty much pinned, for want of a better word. So we go back and turn on our tenements again. So pending tenements. So you can see they've pegged some outside here and here. I was basically just following around looking for it and to see if we can join up some trends. Now, the big thing with this one is, so what is controlling this, the direction, and how far is the direction of this mineralization going? So we can either do this a couple of ways. And again, I'll turn off the pending. And we can turn on the sort of 250,000 topo map. This is the topo. This is 250,000 geology map. Now, it's blurry because it's a scanned raster. And so what we're going to do is move this this geological map under the points. And we can see where the points are sitting. Now, remember, this is a surface geology map. So you're going to have rocks, and occasionally you're going to have bits of gravel and dirt and whatever sitting on top of it. So this is my interpretation of what's happening here. We've got this purple rock here. I don't worry about the type yet. And we've got some more purple rock here. There is some, the yellow rock, well, not yellow, the yellow cover coming in through here. And I believe all this is the same thing. So how do we prove that? Okay. So this is the way that I do it. So we can also check it out with, we'll take off the 250,000 map. And we can put on the 100,000 mapping if it's present. Okay, it's not telling us much more, except there's a lot of cover and the same gold locations. Okay, so let's turn that one off. So this is where geophysics comes in quite handy. So you can turn on the geophysics. Yes, it's blurry, but that's the way it is. Okay, so we're going to move our spots to the top of the pile again. And so what we're seeing here is, and I've got this other file of spots as well, is that what it appears is that there's a big line of workings that runs along the contact of this magnetic high all the way around here, and there's quite possibly some on the other side as well. And there might be a bit of something else inside there causing this line. So there's a good chance that the mineralization runs along a contact. Okay, so that's one bit of information. And so what we need to do now is actually, let's have a look at the last bit of information to put it together so we know where stuff is going, is to actually look at the structures. So these are the faults and the shear zones. So let's start with the coarse ones because they cover more of the map. And so there's one running around here, and you notice how it bends around the top. This is very similar to the geophysics. And so you can see how that honors that bend as well. Okay, so that's handy. So we know that's happening there. And are there any 100,000 structures? And in this case, there's none mapped. Okay, that's fine. No problem at all. So this is the major trend here, and it comes and swings around. So there's every chance that there's a structure running up through here, and it actually goes and bends around the top here, very much like we drew on the geophysics. So now we know there's a good, and based on the orientation of the points, that the mineralization extends southwest, northeast. Okay, so let's zoom down to our zones again, and that sort of ties in with this thing. So we haven't come up with any too heretical thoughts at the moment. So let's start joining some dots up. Now you can see if that runs along the contact, we've got a long contact, and so we could potentially draw a structure that comes down through here, along here, and down here, maybe going all the way down to here, maybe not. There's definitely another feature sitting out here, possibly another feature out there. Now, some of these may actually even go even further. So some of these things may join here, through here, or join that way to that way. So what this does is it opens up a lot of possible mineralization. Now, if it's in this place, there's a good chance it's out here as well. And there is hints of it out here. there is scrapings happening out there, and there is scrapings happening out here. So there could be some more structures floating around out here, which we can't just see at the moment, but worth investigating. Okay, so where would I go and detect in the zones? So we've now got a zone that potentially comes all the way down here, through here, and down to here. The line doesn't have to be exact, it's an approximation. Okay, so this is where I would be concentrating my detecting on. First place, if you could go up there and you only had a short bit of time, I would concentrate on these zones in here, extensions to known loads down here, in here, possibly up here. Same as down here, there, and up here. This is the places to concentrate on. If you had the time, you may say that this structure comes all the way down through here, possibly going through these scrapings down here. Okay, so that's the zones we had to look. So what the key to this one is, and this is what most beginners, what I've showed you is remarkably simple. Once you've seen it, I think, well, doesn't everybody know that? Unfortunately, most beginners do not know this information. So what we want is ground that's available, known mineralisation, and we want to be able to follow the geological axiom, which is follow the strike. Okay, the strike being find the direction that the structure is on, which we did by drawing the lines, and extrapolate those points away. Keep going in the general direction of the strike. Figure out why the loads are changing shape. In this case, there's an arc, okay, to the fault zone, and so the loads generally will come up and actually try and turn as well. If they turn, there's a possibility one of two things will happen. One, the loads will get wider and possibly richer, or depending on the composition and the orientation of the faults, they could actually go through compression and actually get lower and lower grade. My gut feel, purely based on the distribution of workings, the latter is the case here. As we go through the top of the arch here, we're getting compressed down, not much happening, some stuff happening on the other side. So do your research, find your spots, look along strike, map out the old workings, use the aerial photography to zoom in on the, when I say aerial photography, I'm applying the Google imagery. Zoom in, have a look and see what the old workings look like. Get your eye in and only identify the points that actually look like old workings. Don't fall for tree shadows and those sort of things. And then once that is done, what you can do is you can go down to the menu down the bottom, click on this button over here and go download as GeoJSON. This will pop up a little box and it'll ask you to save the data. This will save as a standard GeoJSON file. Don't get obsessed by the name. It's pretty much just a text file with a whole bunch of coordinates in it. But it's an industry standard file that can be read by almost any mapping application worth its salt. So a simple application like Trilobite, you can get this information into it. So what you can do is you can then export this thing out, and the easiest technique is to email this thing to yourself, pick up your phone, access your email, click on the GeoJSON file which is attached. Trilobite will immediately spring into action, bring it into the system, and you can now see these points inside Trilobite and have it out in the field as you go. So simple technique, but you can find an awful lot of spots so quickly you'll have months and months worth of detecting time to go and catch up with all the points. So I hope you guys have got some value out of this. If you have, I'd appreciate it if you leave me a like. I'd love to hear any comments about you finding gold using this technique. And if you have any value, I'd love it if you could subscribe. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.